We're going to put in a set of LED lights for the Jeep, bought on Amazon. It's the Axial, A-X-I-A-L set. This set comes with anti-flicker modules. It also comes with a module that controls your daytime running lights, as well as your blinkers as far as your halos go. I got a little confused when I was reading the directions and watching a few videos, didn't see a complete installation, so just wanted to take the time to do that for some of you guys that are at home wanting to put these on your kids' Jeeps or on your Jeep. So what the kit comes with, it'll come with 2 LED lights. They'll come in packages. However, the plugs on the back of the lights will not match your plugs, and you have to utilize these plugs that come with a set to make them work. The back of the light will be a three-prong plug, which will utilize the anti-flicker first. You'll plug that in, and then you'll plug in the connector that will connect to your Jeep. So you can go ahead and get those hooked up, or you can wait till later in the installation. I'll probably hook these up and then install the lights, so I'll take these back apart. We can go ahead and get those put together. You're going to need a few basic tools. You're going to need a Torx bit, a small Torx bit. I'm not real sure of the size. This screwdriver I have comes with a multi-tool set, so you're going to need to have a Torx bit that'll fit the screws in the headlights. A small pair of channel locks, a decent wire crimp. I like the ones that have a blue on it because that's the type of connectors I'm using, is the blue. And then I prefer a Klein set of wire strippers over the kind of the generic set that comes with a wiring kit. I had to get 2 additional items to make this system work on the Jeep. I found the wires a little short. One, this is called a little fuses. I got it at an AutoZone, or I think it was O'Reilly's. Mini add a circuit holder, and this will actually fit into your fuse block in your Jeep. And we're going to pull out a 15 amp fuse. I've gone ahead and loaded this. This doesn't come loaded with 2 15 amps. I've loaded it with 2 mini 15 amp fuses, so both circuits will be protected. Then we're going to put this where we pull the 15 amp fuse, we're going to put that in, and we're going to connect one of our wires to that. Then we've got one of our wires is going to be a little too short to get into the fuse box where we wanted to go, so I've made an extension and I already have it prepped up, ready to install. You're going to need 2 of these splice connectors, the blue. These are going to connect our yellow wires off of our harness into our blinkers, so our halos will blink, but we'll have to have these to splice into the existing wires in the harness that's already in the Jeep. So let's get started. First of all, you have to pull the pins out of the front of the Jeep. We've got the hood open. That's all we've done so far. I've already removed these pins in the top of the grill, but I'm going to show you how to get this one out. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of these connectors. Some of them are made a little different. You have to pop the center out. Sometimes they're a little aggravating. You want to save those. This thing just spreads out underneath here when you push that in. So you'll have to pull these all the way out to get them back in. So I would put those in a bucket where you can keep track of all your parts so you don't lose them, especially if you're working over leaves or grass. Then you're going to grab this, and I've already popped this one loose, but there's 4 or 5 small pins down here that are just going to pull out. And you lay it back. You can see those clips here. You have 4 of them, and then you have a guide pin. Right here is your blinker lights. Simply turn those down 1/4 of a turn. 1/4 of a turn, and then your whole grill assembly is loose. Set it to the side. Now is where your Torx bits comes in. Your bezel, your light bezel, is held on by 4 screws here and here. We're going to remove those screws. Also put these screws in your buckets. You have to have these to put your bezels back on. You will need your bezels with this light kit. It does not come with new bezels. Put your screws in your bucket. You've got 4 Torx tip screws. Remove your bezel, set the bezel to the side. Remove the existing light. To do this, you have a clip that is on this light. It has a red locking clip located on the top or side depending on your model. Flathead screwdriver can be used, your fingernails. You don't have a lot of extra slack with these wiring harnesses on these headlights. So you have to unlock that clip. And then you have to push this down, this green part down right here. You have to push that down after you unlock it, and the headlight will just come right out. And you see that what I was saying is this connector is not the same as the back of the other headlight. Set your lights aside. You might want to hang on to those in case you sell your Jeep. You could always take those 2 lights, put them back in the Jeep, and put those LEDs on eBay or somewhere and maybe get you 50 or 60 bucks out of them. Again, put your screws somewhere you can find them. Save your bezel. Remove the red locking clip, or back it off, not remove it. And then right there is a little spring button that's made into the plastic harness. You push that down and that will come right unclipped. We did an installation earlier, and the axial clips that go on here were a little shorter, so we had to trim just a hair off of this lock right here to get them to snap in place. So if you have any problems getting that to snap on, you can take a razor knife and just shave just a hair off of that on the light, and it'll lock in fine. Now is the fun part. Now we have to get our main harness, and we have to find a location. The location that I found on the Jeep earlier that worked out the best, where everything reached almost. It didn't quite reach, which I don't understand. They should add maybe another 8 or 10 inches of this lead here, because it's not really a great place to put this center of the Jeep and then try to get this over through the engine compartment. I didn't like that. You could get on some hot hoses. Your wire could get down here. So we chose to locate the module right here, and we could actually, it was more like this, and we tied it in place to this existing wiring harness. We fed this back through here, back to our, this is your fuse box right here. We'll open that up in a few minutes when we get to that portion of the job and get those fuses in the right location. So I do not have any ties with me. I've got some wire. I'll be right back. Just hold tight. I just utilized a little piece of tie wire. I would recommend getting some tie wraps. However, I don't have any and don't feel like going to the store. So This is what we're going to use. I'm going to give this a little U shape, go right behind that existing wiring harness, and I'm going to come through these two holes. And all I'm doing is securing this. You can find any location that you feel like safe that'll work. Your wires won't get melted or burned, or even cause damage maybe to your radiator or your cooling system. Just be careful about where you mount it, and secure it tightly for that reason. Pull that up here tight, and we're going to get that twisted in there, and we'll trim off these tag ends just to keep somebody from poking their hand. It really won't hurt anything like it is, but who knows. All right, so that's got us pretty secure there. Now, it doesn't really matter which one goes where. They don't care where they land at, so whatever makes sense. We're just going to pull this one over here, and I'm going to tie wire this one up once I get it connected along this existing cable. Jeep thought that was a good idea, so we're going to go right alongside of it. We've got to get this fished back behind the light, so we're going to fish that back through here. We're going to pull our yellow line, because the yellow line goes down to your blinker, and what this does is it sends a signal to your blinker to blink the halo that's on your light with your blinker system. So it will not come out right here in the end to your main light. We're going to pull it out here, and then we're going to fish it back through the main hole. We're going to fish that down, and we're going to follow the location of your blinker wiring harness. We're going to just track it right there. Okay. All right, so we're ready to tie this blinker wire in. You see there's 3 wires right here. You've got 2 whites and a black. You go opposite of the black wire on the outside wire, and that's the wire we're going to be connecting to. We're going to get one of our blue connectors off of the table that we've got laid out already. We're going to grab our razor blade and one of our splice connectors. I also like to have a small pair of channel locks or a regular pair of pliers that has a channel in them where you can open them up a little bit. Be very careful when you're splitting this open not to cut your wires or yourself. It's already split here, so let's just follow their line and split that tape from the factory. And we're going to take this splice off, or take the cover off there rather. All right, and there's a dead end on this. If you notice, the one closest to me has a dead end on it. We're going to turn that upside down so we can stick our wire in it, and then our other wire is going to completely pass through it. I'm going to trim this up just a little bit. I always like to leave just a little extra in case somebody comes along behind me and has to do something. Give him just a little playroom. But we're going to trim some of that excess off. Actually, we don't have to skin that wire, because it will go and dead end right there. And then this connector will follow this wire. You stick it in this slot, and then make sure your other wire is dead ended into that dead end sleeve. And then you take your channel locks and you push that into the wires, and that connects both wires together across this conductor. Snap it locked, and you're good to go. So we're going to bring this little cover back down, Easier said than done. Get my screwdriver might assist me a little bit. Spread that open. I'm going to trim this back, just back to the back side of that connector. We can run that up in there a little ways. And we're going to put a little piece of black tape on that. Did I bring that black tape out here? Yes, I did. All right. One thing I would suggest is once you get all your connections made, don't put all of your light assembly together yet. Until you get all your fuses, you get everything finished, leave your lights sitting out on the bumper of the truck, and that way you can test everything and check it. That way, if you do have a problem, you can take it back apart without having to disassemble the whole front of the truck again. All right, so now we're gonna fish this other one through the same way. We're gonna try to track where we were. I tell you, I'm gonna try to maybe a little trick here. Get that pushed through in here somewhere I can get some fingers on it. It's really tight in there. And earlier I had a young man with small hands doing this portion of the job. We're going to pull this slack through and then see if we can't run it again, push it back a different direction. I think I'll use the screwdriver again instead of my fat fingers. Try to get over into that area. Looky there. All right, little screwdriver helped out a lot for you guys with fat hands. All right, so now we gotta try to make sure we're not wrapped up around anything that's gonna burn our wires, the radiator hoses, clamps, things like that. So we've got all our slack pulled back, and I'll tie this up in just a second. Make sure all that's nice and neat. We're gonna pull this yellow wire back down just like we did on the other one. Come down. Like I said, it doesn't matter. It's one of the things I had problems with figuring it out when I was doing the first one, is doesn't matter which one goes where. No, it doesn't. Does not matter. All right, so we're gonna tuck some of this wire back here. Gonna give ourselves a little slack just for the fun of it. Let me cut this wire here. Get our other blue connector. Get our channel locks. Again, the one closest to the flap is the dead end, so make sure that's up. You can stick. Get my razor blade over here off the bumper, where we can get some access to this wire. Try to not pull that one out quite so far. I think I'm going to run a piece of tape up here so it doesn't split out so far while I'm working on it. That was a lot of work trying to get that wire tucked back in there. All right, so yeah, that'll stop it from going so far away. All right, so we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to turn this towards us. We're going to get this one dead-ended into the clip. We're going to stick this one, the one that passes through. All right, now it's in there. Make sure it's sitting in there good, and then I would check that yellow one again to make sure that it's It's sitting all the way down as far as it can go before you smash it, and then smash that connector right down on top of those wires, and then lock your clip. Again, we're using the wire furthest away from the black wire, so we're using the outside wire to connect our yellow wire to on the harness. And we've got a bad bulb right here. We're gonna have to replace that as part of this job. Probably won't catch that on this video. It's an easy fix that we'll do in a little bit. All right, so we're gonna leave this part of the job right now. We're gonna move over here to our fuse box, and this is the other end of that part. This is your ground wire. You don't have to go back to the battery. It suggests going back to the battery, but you have a ground wire grounding to your truck, grounding to the battery right here close to your fuse box. Use that one. Stay off of this battery just because you want to put other accessories on. You take it to a shop and they put other accessories on, they're going to be terminating things here. So keep your headlights away from that. So to get this fuse box open, you just push these two clips back and it lifts straight up. You're going to locate M18 fuse, and if you look inside the top of the fuse box here, there's a map of all your fuses. I already know where these are. So this is M18 right here. This little blue one right here, that's M18. And what we're going to do is we're going to pull that fuse, and then we're going to put our connector that we've already loaded with two fuses. We've got a nice little handy dandy fuse puller here. We're going to utilize that, get down in that little place fat fingers can't get to. We don't need this anymore, okay? But save it, put it in your toolbox. There's nothing wrong with it, but I've already loaded our other one to make our job a little quicker. Again, right now we're using from O'Reilly's or any of your shops, even Walmart has it. We're using a add a fuse, add a circuit, and this just makes it a little simpler. This plugs right down where I just pulled that fuse from and gives us a nice wire to connect to without a lot of work. So we're gonna go put this in. This is a tight fit. I already know this because we've done this today before on another Jeep. And you have to go right there. I'm putting those prongs where the fuse is. And earlier I had to get a tool and help me push that down beside that and make sure it's secure, but I think we've got this one. Okay, so that gives me a nice place. We are gonna terminate our yellow wire. Our yellow wire, this is our daytime running lights. This is gonna be your halo that's gonna be on the outside ring of your lights. So we're gonna terminate that here. Let me get my pliers, my wire cutters off of the bumper. I like to strip with a nice pair of strippers. Some of those other strippers that come with the kits you buy, they're a little cheapy. They'll mess your wires up. You can use them if you like, but I like a good set of clines for stripping wires. But I do like the crimps that are color coded. These crimps have a blue mark on them, and that's what we're using as a blue connector. So we're gonna eventually, in a few minutes, I actually did not trace that back through the car yet. We've got to get this traced from the bumper up here before we make terminations. So let's do that. We are gonna follow the same route. Looking for my screwdriver. I did my long screwdriver. Don't know what I did with it. Oh, there it is. All right, so I'm gonna try to take this and track somewhere similar. I think I'll put a piece of tape on here. Give me something to stick that screwdriver in. Get it pushed through some of those tight locations you really can't get your hands through. This is a good idea too. We also did this on the earlier install, is pull that air breather out of its location. Makes things a little easier to access. All right, see our wire sticking through there? I'll pull that out, and we have got just enough of this wire coming through at this location to route back to our fuse box. Now, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut a small groove in this fuse box right here. And for some of you mud riders and guys that like to go out and get your Jeep all wet, I would put some silicone back across that so when this closes, then you're not getting any water back through this hole. But for this installation and this Jeep usage, we're not too worried about that. So we're gonna cut a small groove right here in just a minute. And we're gonna lay that wire in that groove and fill it back up with wire. All right, so this is where, having this up out of the way, you can lay this fuse box back a little bit. I'm gonna there's a nice spot right here that's just wide enough for that wire. And I'm not gonna get crazy. All I need is enough just for that wire to lay in. There's probably some guy out there that is a mud riding, Jeep burying fool that is calling me crazy for doing this, but for Dad's installation of his daughter's Jeep, this is what we're doing. See that? All right. So that's gonna lay right in that groove right there. We might have to spread it out just a little bit. Maybe even just mash that wire, give it a little press. Not too much, just to maybe reform the wire a little bit right there to get it to slide down in there and be tight. I mean, it would take a lot of water to get through that, but if you're worried about it, put your little daub of silicone around it and be done with it. Yellow wire to the M18 fuse block. Protect it with two 15-amp fuses. One of these 15-amp fuses, my understanding of the way this works, protects your original fuse to your daylight running lights, and then the second one is this extra circuit here. So we don't want either circuit damaged, so we're going to protect it with that fuse protector. All right, we're going to use the blue right there on the end of it. Go up to the blue, crimp it. That should be pretty good. All right, this part of the install was not real happy about when I saw the way that it was being done. You guys can comment on the video if you've got a better way to do it. There may be add a circuit for this size 25-amp fuse. I couldn't find one at the O'Reilly's. I did buy a larger one thinking it would work, but it wasn't quite this size. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna add a piece of wire to this, because you can see that it comes up short. When we get ready to connect here, we're not gonna have enough wire. So that's where I had a roll of wire. I've already added a connector to that wire because I knew this was coming. So we're gonna use our Kleins. We're gonna strip the end of this wire. I'm gonna strip a little bit more and fold it in half. That blue connector is a little big for this size wire. So I'm gonna twist it, fold it in half. Gonna put that up in that connector. We're gonna utilize the blue end just off center. Give it a little tug, make sure it's good and tight. Now what we're gonna do is feather this one out just a hair where it's flat. Again, I'm gonna say I don't like this. There's some electrical guys out there that are gonna probably have a stroke, but this is the only installation that I've seen with this from another YouTuber on how to get this to work. He didn't actually show it going in, so that's why I wanted to do a little lengthier video. We're gonna stick that down in the circuit, and then we're gonna use this fuse. We're gonna use that to hold that wire in that circuit. So this is not fuse protected here. However, the lighting company in their harness has put a fusible link right here. So there's a fuse right here inside of this, that if you had a circuit problem, this fuse would short. Now we've got to get the spring out of there, and that little tight spot, fat fingers fell out of that fuse holder. And be careful when you open that. It's got a spring in it. And you need that to hold your fuse tightly in place. So we're going to put that fuse back inside there, screw it back together. I just wanted you guys to see that that circuit is protected by a fuse. All right, now we're done inside this box, with the exception of hooking up our ground. We're going to come back. I should have put that underneath there. Let's do that again. Our ground is going to be outside of that box. Going to give that a little squeeze in a different spot there, just to make that happy, make it want to work. Fit down in there nice and tight. Look at that. All right, and then this ground bolt right here, I'm just going to back that off. As you can see, it goes directly to the ground of the battery. You can lead it right from your ground to your battery, right over here to the ground bolt on the side of your car. So no worries, you are grounding to your battery. If you have a wrench or a socket that'll fit that, maybe a little quicker. For me, channel locks will do just fine. There's some mechanic out there stroking out about these channel locks on this bolt head. All right. So we are done in our fuse box, but before we close all of this up, let's get our headlights laying on our bumper and do a test run and make sure everything works properly. Yellow to M18. Black to this big chrome 25 ampere back here in the back. Ground goes right here. Your yellows on the front, they connect to your blinker sockets. All right, so let's connect these, and we're going to put a little tape on these just to make sure they don't come apart. I don't think they will. Tape's cheap. Also, it might help keep a little moisture out. Not that the backs aren't open, but you never know. I don't think I showed on the video earlier. This is the Axial. The part number on these is J108037. When I was looking for assistance trying to get these guys in earlier, I did not see that posted anywhere on an install. They give you a little diagram here on the back. What was confusing to me on this diagram that they gave me, they show all of the harnesses. However, they don't show what wire to connect this to. They tell you, and if you're a mechanic, if you're a guy that's out there all the time working on cars, probably intuitive. For me, it was not. So that's where we went to that wire that's completely opposite of that black wire on the turn signal on both sides. And then the one that came back to our fuse box, they said car battery ground, easy enough. We got that. We know where that goes. Daylight running lights, VCC positive, had no idea what that meant. And also the yellow relay connect to the headlight, VCC positive if needed. I would assume it was needed or they wouldn't put it there. Did not know where those two wires went without a little research. So wanted to show that in the whole video with these that you're looking, and we're looking at the same set of directions, and I was as confused as you probably are. So we're gonna go ahead and install these in the headlight assembly. And this is where I was saying that this little clip on Axial's clip was a little longer than what came with the Jeep originally on the last install. We're going to see if that will lock up. If it won't, we'll make a slight adjustment to it. I had to use my pliers earlier to get that to pull up in there tightly. I went on the bottom side of it, grabbed it, pull it way up in there. That didn't sound good. Did you hear that? It sounded like plastic. All right, I think it was just the pliers slipping. All right, so this is where I ran into a little trouble earlier. So I want to make sure that lock's open. I want to look up inside here. I don't know if you can see. I don't think I brought my headlight out here. Can you see that? Right up in there. That little green blade has got to slip down over this locking point right here. And that's what we had an issue with earlier. So I'm going to try my hardest to push that up in there, and it does not want to go. So we're going to try to give it a little persuasion here to get up in there far enough, and it does not want to go. Oh wow, there it went. Okay, great. So let's check it, make sure that, since I knew there was a problem earlier, okay, that little green tab is down over that lock, and we are going to lock this red lock back in place just like that. You're done with that. These are not side specific either. Both connectors are the same exact connector, just put one on each side. Give it a little persuasion here. This one doesn't have much slack on the body, on the original harness, to give you much to work with. Somebody needs to call an engineer and tell them this guy's out here in the field need a little extra wire. Wire's cheap. Why would you do that to us, man? All right, went up in there. A little more persuasion than I wanted to give that plastic harness though. I was afraid of breaking it, but it did go. We are locked in. I felt it click, so we're gonna lock this in place. Well, let's say we went in there and locked down. Let's give it a little more persuasion there with a screwdriver. There we go. We're locked in. All right, so guys, now we are at a point of plug and play. So you have this connector that feeds your blinkers, your blinker lights hanging down here where we made our connection, and the same thing on the other side. So let's get a headlight. The headlights are not site specific, left or right, it doesn't matter. I did notice that this the printing down here goes to the bottom. Your larger side of your LED goes down, goes to the bottom. We're just going to plug these guys in right here. You've got two connectors, one for your main headlight. And another side connector. I'm so excited. We're so close to looking at these lights. Just hope all of our connections are made well. You've got a little line inside there is what I'm looking for. A little hard plastic. It fits right in this hard plastic groove. These connectors are wired where you can't really mess that up. Can be aggravating though. Again, if your Jeep is a temporary thing, or you like to buy different Jeeps and play with them, I would keep your box, keep your old lights in that box and mark it that that's your headlights and stick them in the barn or in your shed or whatever, because these are nice lights, and you might want to Might want to swap them out on another unit or resell them. All right, I'm gonna get that plugged in. All right, now we're gonna test the lights. I'm gonna take the camera and we're gonna stand back and we're gonna let Miss Hannah, she's gonna crank that Jeep up and check out this installation to see if Dad did a okay job on this one. Oh, we got power. All right. So what we should wind up seeing, and I don't see this, what we did on the other Jeep. Turn your headlights on. All right, so we're getting an amber here on this left light for some reason. Turn your right blinker on. Turn your left blinker on. All right, so this bulb over here may be giving us some issues with what we've got going on, because it's probably got to make a completed circuit. What I'm going to do, turn your headlights off. All right, so we got a daylight running light here on this side. I know we have a bad bulb on this side right here. So that may be what's giving us a warning right here that we've got a bad bulb and making this halo burn a little odd. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this bulb out right here and I'm going to swap it and see if the problem changes sides. So just bear with me. I'm going to get my cameraman back over here. And we'll be making a trip to the store in just a minute to get a bulb. I think that's right, yep. All right. So we're going to swap sides with the bulb and see if our problem swaps sides. If it does, we know we've got a bulb problem and not a dad problem. If we have a dad problem, we got to start over. All right. Now, let's see if that problem changes sides. And it did, it changed sides. So we know that if we replace this bulb, that's going to clear it up. All right, Hannah, shut it down. All right, we're going to reassemble this. We know that this isn't a problem that is caused by a wiring issue. It is a bulb issue, and we will not be fixing that as a part of this video because we'll have to drive to the store and get a bulb. Is that right? Mm-hmm. All right, so we're going to put this unit back together as quickly as we can because we know you've got work to do. All right. I'm going to tuck that wiring back in, out of the way, so you can get your bulb where it belongs. All right. So if you'll notice right here on this bulb, there are some slots that this bulb can only fit one way. All right, now we get our bezel. Get us a couple of screws to start with. You got a screw holder right here. God made one right there. All right. This bezel you have to figure out which way the screws go on it. So that's not right. I believe that's it right there. All right. So I'll leave that a little loose until we get finished getting them all started. Get you a bucket. I assure you, you do not want to be looking for this screw in the grass, on the concrete, in the motor, in the bumper. All right, so we're going to go ahead and tighten that down now. Be careful, this is plastic you're screwing into. Much like aluminum, you don't want to torque it too much. Just tighten it up good and snug. Because if you do, then you won't be able to hold it in. It'll strip out and your light will be flopping around. Don't forget to strap these back. We're going to get to that in just a few minutes. But I wouldn't leave that where it can get down around your radiator or blown back somewhere that might cut your wires. Then you got to start troubleshooting, finding out what's going on. All right. I'm excited. Couple more screws. Set that bucket down here a little closer this time. Huh. That'll happen. All right, you have to figure that bezel out again. What goes where? That does not go there. That goes just like that. Nope. Nope. That's it right there. Get them started. That headlight does not want to play nice. Doesn't have a choice though. All right, so make sure we get that fitted up before we get those screws too tight. Like it spun on me a little bit. Take that back out. Should have held that light in with my hand while I was putting that bezel in. I think maybe the harness got a little close or something back there. It might be causing us a headache. I'm gonna push that wire back in that hole that was sitting up on the side. All right, that looks better. That's more better. Just keeps wanting to jump out of there. Let's take that screw back out. This time I'm going to ask my camera assistant to hold her finger right there. Give me a little pressure while I tighten these two up. Maybe it won't jump out on me again. All right, we're gonna get our other 2 screws. All right, we are going to close our fuse box. We know everything's great in the land of electricity, so close that up. Put our air filter, looks pretty good. Dust that out while we got it out. Put that back in our air breather box, which is a little loose. It's got a broken clip on the bottom of the air breather box. So got one more clip back here on a third clip back on the back side in front of the pulley there. So that's good and secure. That's good and secure. I'm not going to tie these wires up. I'm just going to leave that when it lays in there pretty nice. I'm just going to put I think just two little pieces of wire here, and we'll get the grill put back on. I wouldn't get too aggressive with that wire. Just because this is a soft cable, you could cut into the wire if you got it too tight. Same thing on boat transducer cables. It's good to use electrical tape when you can use it because it's soft. Sometimes old tie wraps and tie wire, they'll cut into stuff. However, today we're using what we have at our disposal. All right, so I think that's going to keep us off of the radiator, keep us nice and tight. Pretty professional, with the exception of maybe I would have liked to had a couple of tie wraps. Would have been a little more professional job. All right, so now we're going to put our grill back in, and you can get to these lights from the outside of the fender, so I'm not too concerned about that bulb right at this moment. We're actually going to drive this car right down to the auto parts store and get a bulb. So I'm going to put those bulbs in while I've got the grill out, but you don't have to take the grill out to replace those blinker bulbs. All right, so you make sure these clips are lined up pretty close. These lights have to be on about a 45 for those to line up, and then you turn them back sideways. About a 45. Turn it back sideways. You're going to line these 4 clips up first. Make sure you get those, and you're going to just put a little pressure on each one of those. And you're going to feel them kind of snap into place. That's all there is to that. These clips we were talking about earlier are 2-part clips, much like what's on 4-wheeler fenders, those kind of things. I like pulling them all the way apart. Makes them a little easier to go in. So you're just going to squeeze that together with your teeth or a pair of pliers, whichever's cheaper. Push those down in there, and then your pin just pushes down in there and spreads that clip apart and holds it nice and secure. You can get replacement clips at the auto parts store. They have these little pins, so if you break one, don't worry, just go down there and give them your money. that includes today's tips for installing LED lights on your daughter's Jeep.